Hello, I'm Jamie Buller, Head of Nautical Studies at the London Nautical School. Welcome to the first of a series of webcasts. The aims of these webcasts are to hopefully make homeschooling and life at home in this COVID lockdown a little bit more interesting by showing you a whole series of websites that will make things like learning about science, technology, maths, English, communication, IT, a little bit more interesting by showing you real world examples of some of the stuff that you've been learning at school or cadets or with your scout group, but also to show you the wide variety of jobs and careers that are looking for people just like you, that will give you a really satisfying and varied career where you're not stuck indoors like we all are at the moment with this COVID lockdown. If technology works, which hopefully it will do, I will go through a series of websites, and the aim of what I'm doing is to show you what's out there. Right, if we start off with the Maritime UK website. Maritime UK is the collective, as it says on the webpage, is a collective voice for the UK maritime industries. They represent the maritime sector. What that means by the word maritime sector is it's the part of the United Kingdom economy that makes lots of money for the United Kingdom through everything to do with ships, boats, leisure yachting, inland waterways, maritime business, maritime law, maritime insurance, ports and harbours, and of course moving cargo around and bringing in food into the United Kingdom through fishing. Right, perhaps the best place to start on here is with the careers tab. So if you click on the careers tab and you scroll down, I'll go through some of the boxes that are here. We're going to go into a little bit more detail in a minute or two on exploring the maritime sector and all the different industries and career opportunities that are out there to do with the maritime sector. Once this COVID lockdown is behind us, hopefully very soon, there will be a whole series of careers events all around the United Kingdom. If you click on this box, it will tell you when the planned careers events are and whereabouts they are. This box here about maritime, if you click on it, it will tell you about the economic importance of the maritime sector, and you can see just how valuable maritime is to the United Kingdom. 95% of all of the resources that we need, the food, the fuel, the materials to make our roads, the materials to make our buildings, will come in via or be connected with the maritime sector. And I'm going to come back in a minute or two to talk about sand and concrete and where does all the material come from to make our buildings, and you know, the sand and gravel and concrete. Okay, further down here, one of the things about the maritime sector is it's particularly well suited to young people who want to go into the maritime sector through apprenticeships. You can do a wide range of apprenticeships, from apprenticeships in the leisure industry, ports and marinas, boat building apprenticeships, becoming a harbour pilot to guide big commercial ships in and out of port through a pilotage apprenticeship, for example. Again, once the COVID lockdown is out of the way, there is a whole series of industry ambassadors a whole group of industry ambassadors who will go into schools and youth groups like cadets and all the rest of it, and will give presentations on their particular part of the maritime sector and why they really, really enjoy working in the maritime sector and why it's a good career to follow. In that line, there's the Maritime and Me. This Maritime and Me is growing and evolving all the time. If we click on it, you will see that there are loads and loads and loads and loads of young people, the tabs go on and on, who have decided that maritime careers is a really, really satisfying job that gives them a lot of variety and a lot of job satisfaction. What I would suggest you do is you click on some of these people and read their backstory. How did they get into maritime into maritime careers? Why is it a good thing for them to do? This is growing, and at the moment, it's lots and lots of young ladies who have gone into the maritime sector. There will also be other people that will be joining this group as it evolves. Going back to the careers tab. Okay, exploring the sector. As I said a few minutes ago, there are lots and lots of different industries that make up the maritime sector. The leisure industry, if you go around the United Kingdom coast, there are lots of marinas and yacht harbours, and these marinas and yacht harbours need to have a big workforce to do things like actually run and manage the marina in the first place. But each one of these yachts in the marina will also need to have marine electronics specialists to fit the radios and the radar and autopilots on board. There'll need to be the boat builders. They're actually making these yachts in the first place. There'll need to be the diesel engineers who are, or petrol engineers, or hopefully going into the future, electrical engineers who are putting in the power supplies and making sure they work and servicing them. There also needs to be specialist shops called yacht chandlers, which will sell all the clothing and the gear. Workboats and tugs. There's a massive growth in offshore wind energy, and this particular vessel here in this photo here is a boat called a crew transfer vessel. So all those wind farms that you see off the United Kingdom coast needs to have engineers that actually go out and build them in the first place and service them and maintain them. So a crew transfer vessel is a high-speed vessel where the guys that are going to do or the guys and girls that are going to do the work on the wind farm need to get out there, not worn out and tired by the journey out there. So really good conditions inside the cabin, really soundproofed, really fast. Then they get out to the base of the wind farm. This bit here is where the crew transfer vessel butts up against the bottom of the wind farm, the wind turbine, and then the workers will climb up the ladder and into the wind farm. Inland waterways, both in terms of tourism, but also cities like London and Manchester and Liverpool and places like that, they need to be more and more people coming in and out to work via the waterways. There needs to be more and more cargo that's carried up and down the waterways to bring lorries off of the roads. So inland waterways is a really growing part of the maritime sector. The company that provides the high-speed commuter craft in London, or one of them, Thames Clippers, I know is really growing its fleet to cater for the demand. Engineering is both in terms of building and designing warships and passenger vessels and cruise liners and cargo vessels. It's also maintaining and altering, making modifications to fishing vessels or fitting a new engine. But also on board the ship itself, there will need to be marine engineers who are maintaining and making sure that the ship's engines and the ship's steering gear are working correctly. If you enjoy playing with computer games and love your electronic side of things, then as ships are becoming more and more semi-autonomous, there needs to be more and more of a type of engineer called an electrotechnical officer, who understands the physics of electricity, but also understands how computer systems work. Business services. Now, have you ever thought about if you wanted to bring in, I don't know, the latest high-tech smartphone into the United Kingdom? You found it being made in China and you're an entrepreneur and you want to bring it into the United Kingdom. How do you actually go about doing that? Well, you could make the contract with the factory that's making them in China, but then you're going to need to engage somebody called a shipbroker to organize the shipping of all of your smartphones back to the United Kingdom. The shipbroker will then work with a container shipping company, and all your smartphones will be loaded into a container, brought by lorry or train to the port, and then put onto the ship, the container ship that your broker has arranged for you, and brought back to the UK. In maritime business, it also covers things like maritime law. So if two ships have a collision, sorting out untangling the law on that. London and Bristol and other cities are also really well known for their marine insurance background. So, for example, there's big companies like Lloyd's of London. There's also a growing group of insurance people for shipping called Protection and Indemnity Clubs. It's one of the things that United Kingdom has a really strong presence in. Ports and harbours, we talked a little bit about the pilots and the pilotage apprenticeship, and we're going to go into a lot more detail in each of these industry sectors in a separate webcast. So I'm not going to spend too much time on each of these. Marine science, for example, have you ever thought, if you have a offshore wind farm or other offshore installation, say for example they wanted to make a part of the harbour a bit bigger, a bit deeper, there needs to be marine ecologists who will go down and actually survey what creatures are living under the water and design the new installation to cause the minimum disturbance to the underwater life. But also for things like offshore wind farms, then there's going to need to be underwater cables that bring the power back to the land. There needs to be underwater scientists or underwater engineers who can go down and check on the cable run and check on the bottom of the wind turbine, for example, to find out if the tide sweeping the sand up and down the coast is washing away at the underneath of the wind farm or exposing some of the underwater cables, or if it's offshore gas and offshore oil, making sure there isn't too much corrosion going on. Super yachts is another area where British officers and British crew are in big demand all over the world. The advantage of working on super yachts, of course, is that you're going to be working in some fantastic parts of the world. What we'll do in the second or so is we'll just touch a little bit on the Merchant Navy, and then we'll go into a little bit more detail about the ships that are working, the ships and boats that are working around the United Kingdom right this second as I'm doing this webcast. So if I click on Merchant Navy, there is a really good video that I recommend that you watch after you have watched this webcast to see or not to see. But first of all, a little bit about what is the Merchant Navy, because there's a lot of confusion when I talk to young people about the Merchant Navy. They think it's something to do with firing guns and firing torpedoes and stuff like that. Of course, that is the role of the Royal Navy. So why is it called the Merchant Navy? If you go onto the Imperial War Museum's website, there's a very good explanation. In wartime, Britain depended on civilian cargo ships to import food and raw materials, as well as to transport soldiers overseas and keep them supplied. The title Merchant Navy was granted by King George V after the First World War to recognise the contributions made by merchant sailors. At that time, Britain's merchant fleet was the largest in the world during both World Wars, and in 1939, a third of the world's merchant fleets were British. If we look at the situation that we are unfortunately in at the moment in the United Kingdom, then what with COVID lockdown and the need to keep shops supplied with food and resources, etc., then the title Merchant Navy is every bit as valid today as it was when King George first made the suggestion. One of the ways that we can actually see how many ships of all different types are working all around the United Kingdom is via a box of tricks that commercial vessels and some private yachts have on board them, called an automatic identification system. If you go onto Google and you type live AIS, or automatic identification system, it will bring you up lots and lots of vessel tracking websites that use AIS. I've got one which I opened a while ago because my broadband here in Kent is slightly sketchy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Right, let's get rid of the adverts because it slows everything down. Okay, so now that we're into the marine traffic AIS website, AIS was originally and mainly still is used so that one ship is able to see electronically what another ship is doing. Where is it? How fast is it going? What direction is it going? What nationality is the ship? How can I contact the ship? So ships have got VHF radios on board that have what's called digital selective calling. And if you know equivalent of the phone number, the telephone number of the ship, you can call up the other ship and you can ask him what his intentions are, or if there's a collision risk or something like that. Just to interpret the map a little bit, all the different colors are different types of ship. And if the ship is boat shaped, then it's a ship that's actually moving. If it's just a round circle, then it's a fixed structure, or it's a ship that's at anchor or is moored up. So King George V said that the merchant vessels were so important to keeping Britain supplied with food and resources that it was worthy of the name Merchant Navy. The same is absolutely true today. If you look at the British Isles on this AIS map, you can't see it because surrounding the United Kingdom are so many vessels that are working at the moment during the COVID lockdown to keep us supplied with food and fuel and essential resources and fish, etc. So if I scroll in on the United Kingdom, you can start to see that there are actually many, many more dots around than first appeared. So if I go off East Anglia, for example, all of these round dots, some of them will be vessels which are stationary at anchor. Some of them will be offshore energy installations. Here's one which I am. So, for example, Vulcan 1 is an offshore structure. If I click on vessel details, of course, it's not going anywhere. It's a fixed structure. But some of the things that I can pull up off of the AIS is, you remember I mentioned the digital radios. The vessels or the offshore structure's MIMSI number, which is if I program that into a digital radio, I would then be able to call up this structure. Obviously, it's not going anywhere. It's got 0 knots and its status is aid to navigation. So it's not really going anywhere. Anyway, going back to the main map. Come on, come on, come on. Internet, internet, internet. Sorry, where I am out in the middle of landlocked Kent, well, not landlocked, it's got a coast around two sides of it. In the middle of Kent, my broadband is really slow, as I'm sure it is where lots of you guys are working at the moment. Okay, so one of the features on this particular website, though other websites have a similar feature, I can toggle on and off different types of vessels. I'm doing it on the free version, which is what I recommend that you guys have a play with. So I get the occasional annoying ad. Well, that wasn't such an annoying ad because it's all about PPE. Okay, so if I click on fishing vessels, you can see that in this lockdown right now, we talk about essential workers. The number of fishing vessels that are out around the United Kingdom coast, keeping our supermarkets and fishmongers supplied with fish, high quality protein, really, really good. If I go on to pleasure craft, now what I expect to find on pleasure craft is all of the pink dots are boats that are private yachts that are still in their harbours, because you're not supposed to be going out on the high seas if you're doing it for pleasure, because it's not essential. Okay, if I go to tankers, There are lots and lots of different types of tankers. So it's not just the diesel and the petrol that needs to be transported around by ship. Is of course the crude oil. So if I zoom in on South Wales, on Pembroke, for example, there are big oil refineries here. So there will be lots and lots of vessels that are either filling up with the refined product, with the diesel or the petrol or the jet fuel that's actually being made, or the chemicals that are going to go on to make plastics that have been separated out in the oil refinery, or there'll be this for example, one is an LPG tanker, which is a liquid petroleum gas tanker, for example, that's coming from the oil refinery. I go back. Click on. All right, so let's turn them all back on again. All right, turn them off. Click on tankers. Here are some of the examples of different types of tankers that are operating around the United Kingdom at the moment. So we've got chemical tankers to make all sorts of plastics like PVC, to make fertilizers, to make weed killers, to make paint. LPG and LNG tankers. LPG, liquid petroleum gas. We just saw that. That's what this tanker here is in Milford Haven. LNG is liquid natural gas tanker. Bunkering tankers. So all of the fishing boats and the cargo ships and all the rest of it are going to need fuel for them to actually motor around. So what a bunkering tanker is, it's like a petrol station that goes to the other ship and refuels it. Asphalt and bitumen tankers. Some of these tankers have to be really specialized. For example, to build new roads around the United Kingdom, we need a lot of asphalt and bitumen, and that sets when it gets really, really cold. So in order to be able to load or unload bitumen or asphalt, it needs to be heated up. Inland tankers. If I scroll out a little bit, it's turned on all the other ship types, but anyway, never mind. For example, there's a tanker right now that's going up towards Manchester. Inland waterways is one of the ways in which we can reduce the amount of pollution going into the air by heavy lorries on the road. The more we can carry stuff up and down Britain's waterways, the better in terms of pollution. If I scroll out onto a European map, you can see just how busy the inland waterways are in Europe. And that's where Britain needs to be getting to. We need to be having more stuff coming all the way up the River Thames, all the way up the River Severn, etc. So you guys could be the entrepreneurs of the future that are making this happen. Whilst I'm talking about inland waterways, if I scroll out to more of a global view, it amazes me how far up the Amazon commercial vessels. There's another tanker, a couple more tankers there that are going all the way up into the state of Amazonas. So if I go into Paraguay, there's a tanker even right up here in Paraguay, and there's another one that's bringing fuel and stuff up from Buenos Aires all the way up to Paraguay on inland waterways. Anyway, getting back to the UK, mustn't get sidetracked. Going back to the UK, we've shown how important the fishing fleet is. If I look at the English Channel right now, so if you look, the English Channel, the British Channel, is so busy that there has to be shipping lanes like a dual carriageway for the sea, and all of the green ones are general cargo ships coming up the English Channel, go up the English Channel on the south side and come down the English Channel on the north side. Just like a motorway, there's a central reservation where there aren't many ships, and ships that are joining or leaving the shipping lane have to do it at a shallow angle as possible. Ships that are crossing the shipping lane, if we look at Dover and the Straits of Dover, there are, even though there's nobody going on holiday, there are cross-channel ferries that are coming backwards and forwards across the English Channel, bringing stuff that we grow in agriculture and horticulture here and produce in the United Kingdom over to the continent, and also bringing food and essential supplies back on articulated lorries on the ferries back to the United Kingdom. So if I clicked on Spirit of France, for example, and I click on Past Track, I can see how busy Spirit of France or any of the other ferries that are going back and forwards across here, Dunkirk Seaways. There you go. You can also pull up things like she's underway using engine, the weather in the actual location where the ship is, the speed that the vessel's traveling at, 21.4 knots, sorry, 21.1 knots. On some passenger vessels, for example, if I go, so use the back arrow, is that going to work? Let's get rid of it. That one, come on. Let's use the uppy downy slidey arrow. Some passenger vessels, for example, on the Thames, they need to know the number of passengers that are on a Thames clipper bringing commuters in and out of London. So that will also be displayed on the Thames AIS, so that, God forbid, if there was any form of accident with a vessel colliding with a bridge or something like that, they know exactly how many people are on board, so that when the lifeboats go and rescue people, you've got the Woolwich ferry, which is going backwards and forwards. There we go. And she'll have a track that's going backwards and forwards, loads and loads and loads of times going backwards and forwards across the River Thames. Okay, let's zoom out on a rather special vessel. Right. Yesterday morning, I was talking to a gentleman who started off life learning to become a powerboat instructor and doing lots and lots of voluntary work with a charity in the centre of London down here called the Ahoy Centre. He also went on to do become a sailing instructor and powerboat instructor with the Sea Cadet boat station on the Royal Docks. But now he has gone on, after finishing A-levels and going to Plymouth University, and he is now qualified to work on board. Come on, where are my ship types gone? I've got a ship that's still, yeah, I've still got the Woolwich ferry on. Let's turn the Woolwich ferry off. Everybody loves the Woolwich ferry, but I shall just turn him off, because otherwise you won't let me show you the other ship. There we go. Here we go. Now, when I spoke to him in Swansea yesterday morning, he told me that his ship was going up to look after or mend a navigation buoy up near the border of Scotland. So I'm going to turn off all the other different ship types, and I'm going to see, yes, found him. Okay, so we're going to have a look in one of the webcasts in the future about navigation marks and keeping ships safe with lighthouses and buoys. So this particular vessel, the Galatea, belongs to an organisation called Trinity House. In Scotland, there's also the Northern Lighthouse Board that does it more or less the same sort of thing. So on the back of the Galatea, you can see in this photograph 2 navigation buoys. These are special floating buoys that are anchored to the seabed, and they mark where the edges of shallow water are, or the edges of rocks. the eagle-eyed amongst you, if you go on to marine traffic and actually have a look at this photo, will see that this buoy on the back here is painted blue and yellow, and that's a wreck marking buoy. So if, for example, there was a collision out at sea and a ship sank, in order to avoid other ships crashing into the sunk wreck, they will then put one of these wreck marker buoys. The buoys have got lights on the top mostly, so that at night time ships can recognize where the buoys are by the color of the light and the flashing, the rhythm of the light, the flashing of the light. So this lighthouse on the end of this pier that the Galatea happens to be going past at the moment would probably have a red light that's flashing in it, because it's marking the left-hand side of the channel in and out of the harbour. It might have different bits of glass that, as the light flashes, shines different colours to warn ships or tell ships where the safe line to come into the harbour is. That would be called a sectored light. So anyway, going back to the Galatea, if we click on past track, we can see where they have been up to today. Well, actually, what we've got on the live track here is we've got the live track from where I was talking to Storm Saturday. Sorry, I can't speak English. So, talking to Storm yesterday in Swansea, not Swansea, Swansea technically makes up with Bray. And this is where they've gone to this morning. And because the vessel is stopped, I would put money on it that, there we go, this is where they're actually mending the light bulb or replacing the light bulb in one of the buoys on the top of the ship. In a moment or two, to wrap up, I'm going to go to a phone conversation, a web conversation that I had with Storm Smith, it was his name, just before he left Southampton. But what I would like you to do, or a good thing that you could do between this and the next webcast, is to go on to a live AIS website and just play around, find out where all the fishing vessels have been operating, and where the fishing vessels come into harbour. What are the different cargoes that are being carried in and out of Liverpool or Hull, or all the way up inland waterways to Goole? Yeah, what is this vessel carrying? And start to think a little bit on the Maritime UK website about what are the different careers that perhaps I might be interested in. And then in future webcasts, what we're going to do is we're going to go through some of these resources, and I'll show you, one of my colleagues in Maritime UK or related maritime industries will show you how these websites work and how you can learn and find out interesting things on it. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up the AIS bit, and I will transfer over to the video conversation I've had with Storm. Thank you. Good morning, Storm. So how is life in Swansea at the moment?
Well, James, sun's out. We can't complain. Yeah, just getting through the last bit of the lockdown, really.
Aha. So you're on board the Galatea, which is the Trinity House vessel that I was looking at on AIS just now. So how did you actually end up in the Merchant Navy? And because you're not that old, how did you actually end up there? What's your story? What's your story?
So I started off sailing when I was 11 at the Ahoy Centre in Deptford. Yeah. Learned to sail there, became an instructor, and then I kind of just wanted to keep going bigger on bigger boats, bigger, until I stumbled across the Merchant Navy when I was 18, 19. So I enrolled to do a cadetship and studied it.
Before you were doing a cadetship, though, I saw you buzzing around on the Royal Docks with the Sea Cadets and teaching some of the kids on the Sea Cadets as well, weren't you?
Yeah, so after sort of learning to sail, I became an instructor, sailing, rowing, and power boating. So yeah, did a lot of teaching in and around London for the Sea Cadets, the Ahoy Centre, and some other organisations out on the Thames.
And then what subjects did you do at school that then helped you get into your Merchant Navy cadetship?
So did the standard GCSEs, English, maths, and science, the important ones, and then for A levels, did science, sport, and music. So not too Merchant Navy related. Just needed your basic 5 English, maths, and science for
and then when you went to uni, did you get sponsorship?
Yeah, so I was sponsored then by a sponsoring company who took me on, who I was introduced to by Seafarers UK, member of staff there, through the Royal Docks, Sea Cadets. All good networking. And then went off study for 4 years down in Plymouth.
So once you've gone through your training at Plymouth, you then got the role. Was Galatea your first ship that you actually got a job on?
Yeah, so I had a job lined up with my previous sponsoring company. However, with life, it kind of didn't quite suit what I was looking to do. And this job came up. I applied for it and was very lucky to be one of, I think, 2 to get the jobs available. So I started back in November, December of last year. And then we work a 3-week on, 3-week off pattern.
Very good. So the 3-week on, 3-week off must suit your life on the Thames as well.
Yeah, most definitely. Still get out recreational sailing every now and again, which is all good fun.
So what's it actually like on board the ship? Can we have a look around the cabin and stuff?
Yeah, no problem at all. So each of us, we all have our own cabins. So I've got a back-to-back. So when I'm off in my 3 weeks off, my opposite number is in here. A lot of the cabins are single with double beds, and then some of them are bunk rooms. Hold up, let me learn how to turn this round. Not that button. That one there. So a nice view out into Swansea.
Very good.
Nice double bed, desk light, and a little chair. And where the magic happens in the office, and we got a TV as well, with Sky TV, which is quite nice. Panel here.
So what's that?
They're just some of our alarm panels. And they're doing some tests on them at the minute. And
you're able to. You're obviously talking to me on the internet. Fine. On your ship, you're able to internet. Okay.
Yeah. So we get an internet allowance each day. So that resets at about midnight, but we're alongside at the minute. So still in 4G capabilities.
So we're going on a tour of the ship now, eh?
Yeah, so we're just on the lower bridge deck at the minute. I'll wait upstairs. We've got a bit of work going on the bridge. So we'll take a step back. So, we've got bridge. We've got a radio survey going on at the minute. So
that's third officer.
Some bits happening down the aft end of the ship, so we'll keep out of their way.
Okay.
And wander downstairs.
Very good. So as third officer, what's your sort of role on the bridge?
So the important thing while we're underway is to ensure the safety of navigation. So we work 4 on 8 off. So during the 4 hours that I'm on, it's my job to ensure that the ship's kept safe and on a safe passage, so abiding by the collision regulations and maintaining the proper and effective lookout. And then while alongside, checking the lines.
I think the internet's just died.
Yeah. Oh, we're back.
We're still there. Good.
Yeah.
I think the mobile phone signal gets a bit patchy as you go deep down into the ship.
Yeah, so this is the crew changing room, which leads out to on deck. So we won't go too far because I'm not kitted up. But, got a clean boy there ready to get deployed. And the hands are just engaged in getting all the stores loaded for departure shortly.
Where are you going to go to, Storm?
We're bound for the Scottish border, so we're due in there tomorrow morning. We've got a buoy that's unlit, so off to check that one out.
Fantastic. Well, Storm, it's been really good chatting to you. I know that your ship is about to get ready to leave Swansea, so I better not upset your captain by talking to you too long. We'll touch base again fairly soon, hopefully.
Yeah, no problem at all. And stay safe and speak soon.
See you on the Thames. Cheers, Storm.
See you on the Thames.
Cheers.